In this video, we're going to build side by side with Cursor and Windsurf to build a Notes app. This is the final product that we're going to build, a Notes app with tagging functionality, design, folders, and you're going to see what it looks like to build these apps, debug, and how Cursor and Windsurf compares. Let's get into it. So I'm starting here with Grok, and I'm using Grok 3 to create our first prompt. And this is something that I've seen people recommend, and I wanted to try it out for this build that we're doing. So the prompt I did was pretty simple. You're a senior engineer, an expert product manager. You're running a PRD. That's kind of like a product description, product requirements document that is common in development for a junior developer to execute on. So we're going to consider Cursor and Windsurf junior developer. I want to build a Notes app MVP with basic functionality. So we're going to build a simple app just to kind of compare both of these tools. So here we can see the kind of description that it generated for us. So I'm going to copy this, go all the way down, and let me copy that PRD. And here on the right side, I have Windsurf, and on the left side, I have Cursor. So you can see they both look pretty similar, but I am going to set these up. And if you are brand new to Cursor and Windsurf, please check out our other video. I'll link it below, and that video kind of walks through how to use all of these tools from the beginning. But here I've opened up a different file for both Cursor and Windsurf, so we're going to be building in separate files. And but we're going to do the exact same prompt. So here in Cursor, we're going to go to Composer and Agent, and this is going to allow us to allow it to kind of generate code for us. So I'm going to paste in that PRD, and we'll go to Claude 3.7 Sonnet. So we'll use the same model for both, and I'm going to hit Submit. And for Windsurf, I'm going to do the same thing. We want to go to Write, which is basically the equivalent of the agent in Cursor. And I'm going to paste that in. We're going to go to 3.7 Sonnet again, and we'll just go ahead and hit enter. And here we can see on the right side in Cursor, it is starting to build. It's telling us what it's going to do, which is building the Notes app MVP. And it's creating the HTML file, the CSS, etc. And if we go to Windsurf, it's doing very similarly the same thing. So what we're going to do is go back and forth. And I'll pause the video while it's building out this first iteration, and then we'll see what we have, and then we're going to compare Windsurf and Cursor as we keep building. Okay, so here we are, and this is Cursor on the left side, and we can see it created the JavaScript, the CSS, the HTML. It created kind of a README file with just kind of a description of the features. And here we see it successfully created it. And to use the app, simply open the HTML index.html file in a web browser. No server or additional setup is required. So I'm going to say, let me say accept all. So I'm going to accept everything that it just did. I'm going to go to what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask, how do I open the index.html file in a web browser? Would it make sense to open in a local server? So I'm just curious what it's going to say to this. Because over here in Windsurf, it wants me to run it in a local server. So I'm going to, I won't go through because it'll be very similar. I'm going to say accept. It says command not found for Python. It's going to try Python 3. So this is something that's useful with both of these tools is it also kind of helps you with some of this administrative stuff. So here it says now the server is running. Something nice that Windsurf has is you can just open the preview directly in Windsurf. So it kind of has this editor here, which is very nice that you can kind of also click on things and send elements here. It looks like we need to ask it to make a change because right now it's kind of stuck on this. Are you sure you want to delete this note? So I'm going to say I'm on the preview, but the pop-up asking if I want to delete a note is on the page and won't go away. I want to start the app. I'll just start with that. I think it's going to know what to do based on that. So I'm just going to send that in to Windsurf. So it says it's going to fix it. It actually shouldn't. I don't think this is going to take very long. So you can see it kind of analyzed a few different files. Something nice that both Windsurf and Cursor do is they index your code base and they will look and see what they need to do to change things. So it's going to restart the server. It's telling us the command we need to run. So I'll just say accept. So it runs it. And then I'll hit accept again. And this is where it kind of troubleshoots with itself. So it's saying, oh, the previous server is still running, so the previous command didn't work. And we'll try it again. Okay. So let's see if I refresh the preview or open this preview. So I'm in the preview and it's still the same thing. So what I'm going to do with Windsurf is click send element, click on this. It adds it to our chat over here. I'm going to say this element still shows on load. And I'll just reload the page to double check. Or let me exit out of the preview just to double check and open it again. Yeah, so it's still there. So I'm going to paste that in. And while it's editing that, let's go back to Cursor. Okay, so here, you can open it in a web browser, direct opening, double click, or it says recommend on a local server. I'm going to do the local server. So let's run the command. And now let's run that command again. So now in theory, it should be working. So let's see. Yes. Okay. So here I am on the Cursor version. So I'm going to click new note. This is a note. I can click save. I can click new note again. Note 2. Save. Okay. So here, so far the Cursor version seems to have worked better on the first try. All right, let's go back to Windsurf. Let's hit accept. Now we're going to preview the Windsurf version. Okay, so here now I'm on the Windsurf version and it looks like it fixed it. So I'm going to click new note, test. And something else I'm going to ask is to see if it can run on a different local host, because I think Windsurf is running on 8000. So I'm going to say, can we run it on 8001? So now it'll run on a different server. Okay, so here, 8001. So this one is Cursor. This one is Windsurf. So you can see they look actually identical. They basically coded the exact same thing. Looks like there's a little bit of a difference in the size of the note. This is Cursor. Okay, so we have our Cursor and our Windsurf. Let's start making a few changes here. I'm going to say rename the page to Cursor Notes. And then for Windsurf, I'm going to say rename it to Windsurf Notes. And I want to do that just so that I can more easily see the difference, since they're both pretty similar in what it initially generated. And I think it kind of makes sense because we're using the same AI model for both of them, and we asked for something pretty simple. If I refresh here, I can see that's Windsurf Notes. Cursor, it looks like it's still running. Oh, whoops, I didn't actually send it. Rename the page to Cursor Notes, so it's going to modify the file. And if I refresh, now I can see this is Cursor Notes, this is Windsurf Notes. Okay. All right, awesome. So now we have our basic MVPs for both of them. We can see so far they've both done a pretty good job. In this tutorial, we're also not going to connect to a database or anything like that. We're just going to do something more simple, and it's using local storage right now. So it's basically, as long as I'm on the same browser, it's going to save the notes. Let's make sure deleting works. Great. Let's make sure deleting works. Okay, cool. So let's give it something a little bit more complicated. So I'm going to say, I want to significantly improve the design. Let's make it really modern and add lots of pops of color. I want a skeuomorphic design style. Okay. So I'm going to send that into Cursor, and I'm going to send the same thing into Windsurf. So let's see how it does with kind of this design prompt. And I'm also very curious if, because it's using the same model, it's going to end up with something similar. So let's see. I'll pause the video and come back once it's done. Okay, so it looks like Cursor says that it finished first. It says it implemented skeuomorphic notebook design, color enhancements, interactive elements, visual improvements, animation. It looks like it even added sound effects, which is kind of interesting, and keyboard shortcuts. So it actually added a lot. Windsurf is still running, so it's taking a little bit longer here. While Windsurf is running, let's check out Cursor's version. Okay, so here we are in the Cursor version, and it really did a lot. Like, pretty interesting. The animation's a little laggy, maybe a little distracting, but I like where it was going. I like the overall design, how it made it look like a notebook. That's kind of awesome. If I click new note, um, okay, so here I like this again. I just think the animation's a little distracting. So I'm gonna hit save, and then we're back here. Okay, I think it looks great. I don't love this animation, so I'm gonna go back and let's go to cursor and say, looks great. Can you remove the animation 3D based on mouse position because it's a little distracting. Okay, so far cursor's been faster. Windsurf is still working here, but it looks like it's done. Looks like it just finished. It's restarting the server, and so let's check it out. So I'm going to go back to Safari. Let's refresh. And here what it said, smooth view transitions, interactive dialogue, note deletion, save button, paper texture, 3D buttons. So here we are in Windsurf. New note. I like this this kind of like animation I did here. This is a note test. Click save. Interesting how I feel like it has some element where it's like a little bit skewed here. Test 3. Save. And it's interesting how it did that. I think that was intentional. I like these animations that it did here. The background, I'm wondering if it's supposed to be checkered or if there's an image that's not working. So I'm going to say, should the background be checkered? Is that an image that's not working? And then let me go back to Windsurf. And because it makes these, I can just refresh and it makes these changes. Okay, this is much better. I like how it did this. Now it still has that 3D look, but it's not moving. So I click new note. I like how it kind of has a little bit of that animation. This is test note 3. Hit save, and then go back. I think I like that. It might be a little distracting still with like the 3D kind of skewed, but overall I like it. It also has that similar animation. I want to see what happens when there's more notes. So is it going to scroll? Is it going to get bigger? Let's see. Okay, so far it looks like it's just getting bigger. Okay, cool. Let's just make it larger than the page and see what happens. Okay, so now I can scroll. So now it's just kind of getting larger here. It's saying that there should be look like paper. So I'm going to say something must be wrong. Can you fix the background then maybe with a different texture? Something else I just noticed in Windsurf is every time I refresh, it looks like it's kind of randomly moving these notes a little bit, which I kind of like. I think is kind of a fun style that it created. Okay, so it says it fixed it, but it didn't. So what I'm going to do is take a picture or take a screenshot, and I'm going to say, this is what the page looks like. This is not correct. I can also, I'm looking at it both in, you can do it in this preview here, or what I did was just open up in Safari localhost 8000. Okay, so now sometimes that's helpful when you're debugging is to actually just send a picture. So what I want to do as soon as this is finished, we're going to build a new feature and ask it to build a new feature for both apps. Okay, so here's the change that it made. So it seems to have changed the background and also made the notes a little bit smaller. But overall, I think it's good. I would say right now, I prefer Cursor. I think Cursor, I just like the design. I think it did a really interesting job with kind of making it look like paper. So far, I'm going to say I like Cursor better. So let's go and I'm going to say yes, but one more thing, I'm going to change on Windsurf and then get to the next feature. Let's make the container of the notes wider. So I think it's a little bit too narrow. So while it's doing that, I'm going to write our next prompt. So I'm going to say, now let's build a new feature. I want to have notebooks, which will function as folders where notes can be a part of. So we'll have better organization. Okay, so I'm going to submit that on Cursor. Let's go over to Windsurf, open the preview. It doesn't look like it actually made that change. I guess it only went from 800 to 1,000. I'm not going to worry about that right now. Let's just ask it to do the next feature as well. So I'm going to give it the same prompt. Let's build a new feature. I want to have notebooks, which will function, okay, as folders. So now we're going to get into some more complex logic and see how both Windsurf and Cursor compares here. Okay, so this time Windsurf finished first, so let it restart the server. Probably doesn't even really need to restart the server. Here it is. We have our Windsurf notes now. I like how it created this little logo. That's kind of fun. I can add new notebooks. So down here, interesting design. So I'm going to say notebook 2 and hit save. So now I have this extra notebook. I can create a new note. Inside, this is a new note in the notebook. Hit save. Notebook 2, all notes. Let's add a new notebook. This design can be better. Let's see. Okay, notebook 3, new note. Hi, save. Okay, but it's working. It's functional. So let's see if Windsurf or Cursor says it's finished as well. So let's go to Cursor, refresh, and okay, here it is. So Cursor did something similar, except it kept the same design here on the right side, on the left side, all notes. If I add new notebook, I like how I can select the color. Actually, that's pretty cool. So notebook 3, let's say I want to make it orange, create. Let's add a new notebook, notebook 4. Let's make it blue. And I'm curious, I guess it's just affects this right now. It doesn't affect that header, which would be kind of nice. General, it created that by default. New note, test note. I can also change the notebook here, which is kind of nice as well, and hit save. And now it is here. So overall, I'm going to say Cursor did better. It basically, I think the design is better. It handled kind of the design and user interface better than Windsurf did. So what I'm going to say now is, let's just do a simple, like, improve the design. Sometimes doing that for both of them, I'm going to say improve the design. So sometimes this is like just a simple prompt to give the AI and say, hey, I like what you did, but let's see what you can do by improving it. So I'm going to pause the video and let's see what we get from both of them. Okay, so Windsurf did this a lot more quickly than Cursor. Windsurf kind of completely went away from the skeuomorphic design. It just kind of made it more of a flat design. Like, overall, I guess it's a little bit better. I can do new notes, new notebook, notebook. Like, I guess it's kind of a cleaner design, but it's a little bit more generic as opposed to the more like creative skeuomorphic design we had before. So in some ways I like it, but in other ways I feel like it is like it kind of did make it better, but it got rid of the skeuomorphic design. But that's okay. Let's see what Cursor did. Cursor is just finished up. So let's go and refresh. Okay, so here we are in Cursor. Cursor kept the skeuomorphic design, which I like. It also looks like here now we have a little design issue here, but not the biggest thing in the world. But here now we have a color matching, which is kind of nice. The font, I don't know if I love that as much. It went kind of to a serif font as opposed to sans serif, but I don't hate that as well. Kind of nice animations when you hover over things. So overall, again, I think Cursor did a little bit of a better job with kind of keeping the design we had, but improving it, whereas Windsurf kind of completely redesigned it. So the next thing I want to do, and the last task we're going to test, is I want to add a tagging functionality. So I'm going to say, let's add tagging functionality. If any note has a hashtag such as work, I want to add that hashtag to the sidebar and let users click on that hashtag to easily view all notes with that tag. So I'm going to copy that, put the same exact thing into Windsurf, and let's see how they both do with that feature. Okay, so Windsurf says that it finished. So why don't we refresh and let's see if it worked. So I'm going to add a new note. This is a node test, hashtag work. And let's save. And now it looks like it did add the work tag, which is pretty cool that it did that. It did it correctly. Let's add another note. This is a node 3. Let's have this as personal. Hit save. And there we go. So now we have our tagging functionality that is working on Windsurf, which is pretty cool. So let's go to Cursor. It looks like it's finished. It kind of stopped, so I just had it, I messaged it to continue, and now it's basically finishing it up. So I'll pause the video and let it finish up on the Cursor side. So for some reason, Cursor was just stopping. So now I'm asking it, is it done? And it says it needs to update one more file. So I'll let it do that. Okay, so Cursor seems to be having a little bit of an issue here, while Windsurf did it really quickly. So just kind of noting that comparison there. One thing I also want to note is that we're testing this with kind of pretty simple apps. Something that I've noticed myself is Windsurf seems to maybe be a little bit better right now on more complex code bases and kind of understanding what files to edit and how it all works together than Cursor. It's just something to note that the comparison is going to be different when you're using it on a more complex app than a simple app. Also, something to note is these both Cursor and Windsurf are updating a lot and getting better all the time. So you're going to want to try it out for yourself to see how it works for you. Okay, so we finally got it working here with Cursor. So you can see I added a note. This is a new note, hashtag work. And now the tag is showing up here. And I can click on this and view all of them with tags. The animations might be a little distracting here, but I'm going to say let note 2, hashtag personal, and let's just see if it works, and perfect. So it adds it here on the left side for tags. So here we are. We have our Windsurf notes on the right side, our Cursor notes on the left side. Let me know which one you think is better. Both of them executed the functionality. Some features, I think Cursor got a little bit more quickly or easily. Windsurf for others. The design is very different. I personally like how Cursor made it look unique. We can, of course, keep prompting to tweak this further. I like kind of the functionality that Windsurf did. So let me know in the comments which one you like better. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to get more videos like this for free. And check out the link in the description to go to No Code MBA if you want to learn how to build AI and no-code apps without writing a line of code, learning from start to finish with in-depth tutorials taught by industry experts. So check the link in the description if you're interested in doing that. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.